With so much digital noise and intensely competitive markets out there, now more than ever, B2B brands need to go the extra mile to set themselves apart. Many, however, fall into the trap of sounding like everyone else. So, what can B2B brands do to stand out amidst the noise? Welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers in a Mission podcast, and I'm your host, Christian Klepp. Today, I'll be talking to David J. Ebner, who will be answering this question. He is the founder and CEO of Content Workshop, which helps small and overworked marketing teams in transformative industries to reach their business goals. Tune in to find out more about what this B2B Marketer's mission is. Mr. David J. Ebner, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me, Christian.
And David, you know what? I feel like just talking to you, I feel like we've known each other a million years.
It does feel that way, yeah.
But that's just the power of connection, right?
Yeah.
But listen, I'm really looking forward to diving in today because this is a topic that's also close to my heart. This is something that you're passionate about, or should I say, to make it appropriate for the show, this is what you're on a mission on, right? This is part of your mission. So I'd like to dive right in to the first question, and let me just pull this up here. You're on a mission to help B2B companies and people grow through storytelling. So for this conversation, I'd like to focus on the topic of how to make your B2B marketing stand out in saturated markets. And let me tell you, man, in B2B, that is so true. There are so many companies that are fighting and competing in markets that are becoming increasingly saturated out there. So that's why I think this is so pertinent for our audience. So I want to kick off this conversation with two questions, and I'm happy to repeat them. So question number one, why do you think it's so important for B2B companies in this day and age to stand out and be the signal amidst the noise, as it were? And where do you see a lot of marketing teams struggle?
Yeah, I don't. How much time do we have for this podcast? Because we could spend the whole time on this first question.
Absolutely.
It's really tough. It's always been important to stand out. Today, it's just more difficult, I feel. I've been doing this now, I don't know, longer than I care to admit. Right, the gray hair is starting to come to me faster than I like. But it seemed 10, 20 years ago it was a little bit easier to stand out. Not only is the market more saturated now, the marketing is more saturated now. So you have more vendors, more competition. You have like these, I don't know, not direct competitors, but the people that are like in your sphere of influence that can be pulling people away from potentially your brand, certainly your awareness of your brand and your time. And then on top of that, you have a million different tools that you can use as a marketer to generate content faster and more of it, right? We are tying lots, as they used to say in the Scouts when I was younger, right? There's less targeting with the marketing. So it's important, and it's becoming even more important because it's harder to do. I believe that the best way that you can stand out is to look for the option to be interruptive, right? You want to interrupt the flow. You don't want to disrupt it so much. You don't want to throw people completely off. You just want them to like have a little moment of, oh, interesting. Like that's really what you're trying to achieve as a marketer. And that's a way to stand out is to have more, interesting moments, right? There's a lot of different ways to do that. You can literally just zig when everybody else is zagging, right? Like if everybody's doing X, you can do Y. Something a little bit different, but not something that's going to like completely take them out of the mode that they're in, the medium that they're in, whatever they're consuming content on or marketing on, whether it's social media or an email or billboards. I don't know. Like it can really be anything. You don't want to be completely disruptive. You just want to interrupt slightly. And that's how you stand out. And I am definitely going to need the second question repeated, Christian.
Where do you see marketing teams struggle with standing out? Because, at the end of the day, people keep saying, oh, they all sound the same.
Yeah, right? That's a great point too. And I do think it has a lot to do with the question 1.B, right? Which is that there's just so much more volume out there right now. And I think people are falling in the trap of more is more. More is not more. when it comes to marketing, right? If you don't have a unique opinion about something, you shouldn't be saying something about it at all. That's always been my opinion. I love, I don't mind seeing people post on social media, particularly like happy this holiday, happy that holiday, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's one that goes across both borders, right? Happy Thanksgiving. But that's not a unique opinion about something. Like as a consumer, as somebody, you want to try to pull their attention away from them. You want the most valuable thing they have, which is their unlimited resource of time and attention. You're trying to get that from people, right? You really need to give them something of value in return. And I think we need to just take a step back every time we're producing a piece of content and ask us, who is this helping? How is it helping them? And is the exchange worth it, right? Like the time and energy that they're going to give you to consume this piece of content, this piece of marketing, is it worth that value to them of their time and attention, right? We call it the great barter over here, but it's value versus time. And that's I think that's a place a lot of marketers fall short, especially in the age of AI. There's just easy to produce a lot of stuff, but there also it gives you an opportunity to produce things of great value as well too. And that could literally be the thing that's interruptive. Is literally the content you produce is just of higher value. That's really all it could be.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to go back to what you said earlier about being interruptive, right? And it's not because I want to play the devil's advocate, but you know that there's a camp out there that says, what? Interruptive? If it's not providing any value to me, if it's not useful to me, if it's not interesting or insightful, then yes, in fact, it is an interruption to my usual workday and flow. And yeah, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so much stuff is just living in the sea of sameness right now, right? Like so much stuff just looks like everything else. So I think actually being interruptive, whereas in the past you may have said, well, this thing that produces me no value is actually the interruptive element. Now, because so many things produce so little value, being the thing of value would be the interruptive element. So it's kind of flipped itself on its head a little bit because there's so much volume out there right now. So literally, I think just producing the thing of value can be that interruptive nature. Now you got to be careful. It's a fine line to dance, right, Christian? Like you do not want to cross that edge of that line into disruption, right? So what I'm saying is medium matters, right? So if you're going to be interruptive, you have to be in a sphere of influence of the medium that you're in. So don't like put a pop-up on your website that just says huge value here, click here, right? That's disruptive.
It's like those YouTube videos where they do this, right? Like
yeah, subscribe now, click here, right?
Yeah.
That's disruptive, right? It's a step too far that takes the person out of the flow of what they're doing. All you want to do is present a blip, and that blip can be simply just something of value.
That's a fair point. You brought up some of this stuff already, but I'm going to move on to the next question about key pitfalls that marketing folks should avoid when they're trying to stand out, and what should they be doing instead?
There's a lot of key pitfalls, and we're seeing it every day. I would just ask every marketer to go look at your inbox, right? I subscribe to a lot of newsletters and various marketing materials because I'm interested. I'm always doing like research, right? What is a subject line that I actually click on, right? That I'll actually open from a vendor. What is something of value that actually gets me to click on the thing in the email to go to the following thing? What's an ad that actually stands out to me? I would use yourself as kind of a test on that front. None of your content is going to be as interesting to your audience as it is to you as the person creating it. I think that's really important for us to understand. You might get really excited about an email or an ad campaign or some social media content, but the likelihood that anybody's going to care as much as you is next to zero. That just shows that sometimes we're not the best judgment of the content of it being valuable or not. So I would actually test some of the content that you're producing. If you have clients that you trust, if you have maybe even other people in your company that can look over things and give you honest feedback, that'd be helpful. I think a pitfall is assuming that People will care about the thing that we're producing. I think you should probably get some feedback on that, especially if you're doing like a long-term campaign or something you're investing a lot of money into. A/B testing is fantastic. As much as it's available to us today, Christian, I don't think a lot of brands A/B test. I don't think they're testing as much as they should.
No, they're using time as the excuse, right? Like we just don't have time. We got to get this.
Yep.
We got to get this off the ground pronto.
Yeah, we just don't have time. And I also think a big pitfall is because words are cheap and content is cheap right now because AI can produce it. We're just going to flood the market with it. I've always thought that in marketing and sales, actually, too, the idea of volume is the more that you can put in the top of the funnel, the more that has potential of coming out of the bottom of the funnel. But it's still a funnel. It's not a hallway, right? Like everything that goes in, it doesn't have to come out the back end, right? So if that's the case, and we have the ability to put a lot in the top of the funnel, that should make the things that come out of the bottom of the funnel actually higher quality because we can be pickier. So if you can have AI write you 100 blogs, right? Well, then pick the 10 best, right? Why produce all 100? Because it dilutes your brand by producing things of low value. So anyway, I think that's one of the pitfalls too. I mean, A/B testing certainly is one of them, whether it's an email or an ad campaign. A/B tests certainly do that. Get real data from potential clients or current clients on how things are performing, ask questions. And then secondarily, thinking that volume is somehow a solution. Volume should beget higher quality.
Man, I'm gonna steal that one. What did you say? It's a funnel, not a hallway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everybody doesn't get in. This is, as much as it's a crude TV show, I'm a big fan of South Park.
Right.
I've always been since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And they're actually, if you want, this is a bit of a tangent, but if you want a masterclass in storytelling, South Park is so good at that. Like everything in an episode follows like a chain of events in a line. There's no like things that happen that don't make sense or like are just thrown in there for character development. They don't just do that. They literally everything happens in concession with the next thing. But anyway, there's an episode where Cartman opens his own theme park and he tells people they can't come in. Right? Like nobody can come in. And of course there's a line around the block, right? That's a funnel, not a hallway, right?
I love it. Yeah. I think they came up with an episode lately that was I won't say slightly political. It was highly political.
Who, these guys? Highly political? Never. You know what I do like about them is they make fun of everybody kind of equally. When they see injustice in the world, they certainly point a finger at it and actually point it in the eye of the person that is causing the injustice as they see it. But they're open to pointing a finger at anybody. Which
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to the next question. So one way that B2B companies can stand out in that sea of sameness is through brand storytelling. So talk to us about that and how B2B companies can leverage brand storytelling for greater success.
Yeah, that's a great question, Christian. I think a lot of people kind of have different definitions of brand storytelling, I should say. So I'll share my definition. None are particularly right or wrong, but I like mine. So I'll share that one. I think brand storytelling is everything about the audience and not really about the brand at all. And I think a lot of people will assume that brand storytelling aligns itself more with the story of the brand, the history of the brand, the founder's story, all of those elements, which can play into it, certainly. But people like to hear stories about people like them. They don't want to hear a brand just promote itself, right? They want to hear something that kind of excites them, something that solves their problems. They want to hear about something that saves them money or gives them a better quality of life, right? That's pretty much like the only three things any product or solution ever does. With that being the case, you need to make the brand story telling about the people whose lives you're improving. So focus on that when you're building a brand story. The brand story, you start to think through your personas, your target audiences. You think through their pain points. You think through your solutions and then your solutions to their pain points. It makes almost a mathematical equation. What's the outcome, right? So pain point plus solution should equal X. And that X should be a better life, saving money, right? Reaching goals, all of those kind of things should be what fits in that box. And that's really where your brand story should start. Our story is about helping who? Who do you help? How do you help them? How is their life better now that they've been helped? Answer those questions and you're on your way to telling a great story. And there's plenty of great brands who do this, and they still get plenty of brand recognition. I think of Nike. Nike is fantastic at this. You look at their commercials, and they're really not about Nike. They're about empowering people who are using Nike products, right? Like the kid running running the drills at football camp or whatever it may be, right? You might see a Nike branded asset somewhere in the commercial, but until the end, you probably could say that's almost any brand other than that it's Nike because they're the only one that does that. So they've got brand recognition even when their logo is not showing. But it's really all about how they're making the lives better of the people who use their products. And that's a good place to start. And then you can build story off of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I love it, and I'm absolutely on board with that. But in the world of B2B, it's not always easy to get buy-in for brand storytelling, and you know where I'm going with this, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm totally with you there, man. Like you're preaching to the choir here, but like for those people that are in the board of directors, the C-suite, and people that don't even know what brand is, how do you get buy-in? In terms of the importance of brand storytelling to stand out?
That's a great question. I've been spending, half of my life
I bet.
trying to, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, to solve that problem. I like to kind of point the question back at the person who's asking it when that happens. So why should we invest in brand storytelling? I would ask that executive, what their favorite, what kind of car do they drive? Why do they drive that type of car, right? If they drive a BMW, why do they drive a BMW? They think it's a nice car. It's a high quality car. It's got a little bit of performance baked in with like a little bit of luxury. Great. If BMW, will you always drive BMWs? Like, why? What brought you to them in the first place? Like, when you start to really dive into how everybody buys products and consumes things, a lot of it comes down to trust. We have some sort of trust built with that brand. Whether it's through advertising and marketing or we've used their products before, something leads us to that beginning of that trust, beginning of that relationship. And that's all brand storytelling is trying to build trust between the audience and a brand, right? And everybody does it with everything that they consume in their lives, right? So I think if you get in that meeting room and you're getting some pushback from executives, you can just explain that that's how things are purchased everywhere. And they always start with some sort of relationship, typically. And sometimes people just randomly buy things. That happens, less likely today than it used to. But their interaction with that product then starts to build that relationship. So no matter what, it still comes down to relationship. And usually you can correlate that with some personal experience of the person asking the question. And that usually gets you at least to the next step.
Or at the very least, they'll look at you and kind of like understand, like, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve here. This is the objective of the exercise, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you start to explain that, when you can start to build trust with people and they start to see themselves as part of your brand, and you truly get brand loyalty, you don't just have a customer that buys something one time, right? And the end goal for any business usually is not to sell one item to one person. Maybe people who produce caskets or something like that, right? Yeah, we're not going to sell two to that guy, right? But, in the end, almost every product on the planet, you're trying to get more than one purchase from an individual consumer, especially if you sell a monthly subscription. If you're in the SaaS business, you're doing that all day long, right? You're trying to get them to continue to buy, continue to answer the question, what have you done for me lately? Brand storytelling and the producing marketing that comes from that can answer those questions and keeps you relevant to those people who can continue to buy your products.
It's funny that you brought that up because I find that the SaaS space is one that could really benefit from brand storytelling. I feel that like not all of them again, right? Like, but many of them are like the repeat offenders of like, yeah, well, look at how awesome all our features are, and look at what this little gizmo here can do, right? And and some of them do answer or address the pain points of the target audience, but I find that they make it more about the product and less about the customer.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where it all goes a bit awry.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like you have to, this is why I honestly prefer to call everything we produce solutions and not products, right? Because it really puts you in the pain point or in the mindset of pain points. See, I was already at pain points before I finished my sentence, but like you want to solve problems for people. So you sell solutions, not products, right? That's extremely important. You have benefits, not features, right? We want to call them features. We're really excited about this new thing people can do, but how does it benefit someone? How does it make their life better? When you promote whatever that feature is, it should really be all about how you make somebody's life better with that piece, right? Not just how you make more money with it, which is a veiled, sometimes comes through from a veiled point of view, like, hey, we're very excited to announce this new launch of a feature set. Well, what's in it for me is the answer we should always be answering.
Yeah.
Or it's a question that we should always be answering for our customers.
Exactly. Okay. So please provide examples of how B2B companies can stand out in saturated markets. So specifically, like, what steps can they take? What are those components that need to be in that process? And you brought some of these up already.
Yeah, I'll actually take a little bit of a step out and say, I'm going to say something that's somewhat unpopular, right? So I think one way for you to step out is to give away the secret sauce. We're big proponents of this over at Content Workshop. We want to tell people, we want to essentially demonstrate our expertise. And the best way we can do that is tell people what we do and how we do it. Now, some could say, hey, like anybody could grab that then and then go do it themselves. Sure, they can. But it's still really, really hard to do. It took us, 13 years of being in business to figure this out. Not just to we're not solving a mathematical equation. A lot of work goes into it every time to make it successful. So they can do it on their own and try to do it cheap. They'll probably fail. If they want it done right and fast, they're going to come to us, right? So I think that's a great way to stand out. Just to use us as an example, we sell content marketing services. We do a lot of backlink building for our clients to build domain authority for their sites, and so we essentially sell that service to a lot of brands. And we recently came out with a series of 8 blogs that essentially explains exactly how we do it and our theory behind it. It is certainly giving away the secret sauce, but it's gotten a lot of attention from our target audience on LinkedIn and emails and different mediums. And we've even gotten asked, some of our customers have come to us, they're like, why are you publishing that? And then I turn it back on them, like, you already knew that and you still buy stuff from us. So why do you buy stuff from us? And it always comes back to the same thing, is that, we still can't do it even though we know how. Right. I might be able to look up how a rocket sends people into space. That doesn't mean I can do it. Right. So anyway, that's one way to certainly stand out. Because you have to demonstrate expertise or have a specific opinion about something in your content. And if you're going to produce marketing that does that, that will stand out. And giving away the secret sauce is something that has always worked since the beginning of time.
I love that. And I did read some of those articles, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, because I saw the posts, and I'm of exactly the same opinion that yes, people can get that and take that knowledge and start to apply it. But having done some of this work myself, I can attest to the fact that it's no walk in the park, right? I mean, I'm a copywriter myself, and I've run into prospects that say, well, that shouldn't be too difficult, right? Like website copywriting. I mean, I can write, I know how to do it. I'm like, it's an entirely different set of skills and craft, right? It's one thing if you know how to write, like I can write you an email, but writing copy that actually will go onto a website that will convert people, like visitors into paying customers. I would argue that that's a skill, right? Like anybody can get up on stage and say something. Not many people can get up on stage and move a crowd.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I literally went to school for this, Christian. I have a master in fine arts in creative writing. I studied storytelling, right? So I can attest to what you're saying is 100% true. We've hired 1 million writers here at Content Workshop. Knowing how to write is very easy. It's very easy to write. Writing well is very difficult. Writing well in specific mediums to move an audience is near impossible task. And there's very few people that can do it effectively. I mean, you're probably going to get today people saying, well, can't ChatGPT do that? Like, why would I hire somebody to do that? ChatGPT can do that. Words are cheap right now. Words are very cheap. Good brand storytelling is not. And that is part of the reason that people need to stand out right now. It's because the words are extremely cheap.
100%, 100%. And I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, only because I'm genuinely interested in this. Like, you studied storytelling, and for those of you out there that have spent some time doing this type of work, there are different types of storytelling techniques. So I'm going to throw this one out at you, David. Like, what I wouldn't say prefer, but what's one of your favorite storytelling techniques to use for customers, and why?
Yeah, well, I'm big on the audience, and I'm big on solving pain points. So I'm all day long. Hero's journey is the method of storytelling that we try to adopt for our clients. It's the best way to do brand storytelling. Certainly, is to focus in on a character, have that character be the people whose lives you make better, and let that be your main character, right? And tell the story of literally, you can tell their story. Literally, you can do a case study, you can do a testimonial, you can do something like that where you actually break down the individual story of somebody going through the life of having a problem, searching for a solution. And in the midst of all the terrible options out there, there was a shining star, and that shining star was your brand. And now their life is so much better. And now they can do X that they couldn't do before, right? That is the flow. I mean, that's for the most part the hero's journey. There's usually like some sort of like conflict that's a little bit heavier in the middle there, but set aside. It's the idea that there's a main character. That main character is embarking on a task. That main character, the task is thrust upon them, and their life, they accomplish it, and their life is better, right? So you can adopt that into any type of content, whether it actually has characters in it or not. Just through any type of storytelling, like problem solution based storytelling is all hero's journey, kind of wrapped up in a little bit of a different ball.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Good old Joseph Campbell, right? Like,
That's right.
fantastic. Okay, so based on what you've been saying in the past, like 20 to 30 minutes or so, like, B2B companies can build trust and credibility with their target audience by developing interesting, relevant, and insightful content. Now, here comes the fun part. In our previous conversation, you mentioned you had some unpopular opinions about content marketing in 2025. And just from a top level perspective, because I know you could probably talk about this topic for like 10 hours, but like, just from a top level perspective, what are these unpopular opinions?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a few of them.
Hmm.
I'm obviously not very brash about bringing up the unpopular opinions, but I definitely believe giving away the secret sauce is one of them. On the same note, I actually do believe that it's okay to gate some content, and I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive either. I think there's this barter system between time and value. And if the value is great enough, you certainly can gate content. The problem is you will have had to already build trust with the individual audience, so they would believe you that the gate is worth handing over the keys to get in. And that doesn't happen a lot. You can't just come out of the gate with a gate, for lack of a better phrase. But there's gated content all over the place. What do we call Netflix? What do we call Hulu? Entertainment content has always been gated because we believe it provides enough value that's worth the money that we're going to exchange. For brands, it's really just about the value for the content that they're going to consume and their time that they're going to give for it. So I do believe that there is a place where it can live. It's few and far between from presenting enough value, though, in today's space. Another unpopular opinion, I guess there's really two camps on this. I do believe that SEO is important still. I know that a lot of people are losing a lot of top of funnel informational traffic, but I think SEO is still important.
What's your thought on well, it's 2025, and I have to ask you this question, but like, AI search engines, right? How does that play into the whole well, I would say the manner and methodology in which you craft brand stories and create content for AI search engines?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was recently talking to somebody on my team about this, and it's like we get so caught up in the latest tool and the latest gateway from how are people going to consume our content that we kind of lose sight in what the content should be in the first place. Um, SEO, Google was just a gateway. It was just a gateway to see our content. So yeah, we played the game. We added keywords in certain places, right? Like we worked around the angles that we were supposed to work around. But the reason why all of those elements actually worked is because the consumers actually preferred it that way. Google was just giving people what they wanted, and they search for a solution, they get an answer, right? So of course they were going to do AI overviews. Of course they were going to do snippets. Snippets existed way before AI overviews. People didn't complain about that. They all just wanted to be in the snippet. Why? Because it was more likely that the link was going to get clicked. So the same is true for AI overviews. The same is true for LLMs. The same is true for AI search engines. If you produce good content and you're an authority on a topic and people are talking about you, which is all the same stuff that was true before, it's still true today. It's just a different gateway of people coming to your content. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to, again, play the game a little bit. In today's world, it's important to have domain authority and brand authority to get people to see your content, to be more visible. In this zero-click environment we're in, there's fewer behavior triggers that allow Google and OpenAI and other tools to rank appropriately the content. So it's going to be ranked based off of authority first, and then people will engage in it eventually. So that being the case, you really need to focus time and energy on making sure your site, your website, your digital storefront, your home base has authority. Backlinking is a great way to do that, actually. So it's full circle, but all we have to do is keep doing the good things we were doing before, which is telling good stories, having engaging content, build not just informational content, build educational content, right? Like write content for people who seek to understand, not just seek to be informed. Informational content will be served up more likely in the AI overviews. We're talking about like, what is X, right? Like what is something? Definition content, which is actually still extremely valuable to produce. Don't cede that ground, because the last thing we need is AI not having informed sites to pull that information from. We need that. As a society and as a brand, you want to show up in the AI overview. However, spend more time and energy, or I would say probably a larger percentage of your budget, producing educational content. When people are posed a problem, give them the solution and then show them how they can solve that problem for themselves in the future. I guess that's the same thing as giving away the secret sauce, but dive in deep. Don't go wide, go deep on your content. And I think that's going to serve you in this new environment. And it's also better for the consumer. And if it's better for the consumer, then it's going to make its way to the top of whatever search engine the individual is using.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm totally with you on that one. I guess so many people just get caught up in this whole aspect of SEO where like keyword stuffing, right? Well, it's gonna have keyword, and then there's the whole discussion which I had with a guest last week about like, oh, then they're obsessing with the technical SEO aspect of it, and I'm not saying that that's not important, but there's no point having great technical SEO and then the content's no good, right? Or you're developing the content for the algorithm, as it were, versus for the actual, to your point. What purpose does this content serve, and who is this for, and how is this going to help them, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we should do at the end of every piece, or when you're ideating a new piece of content, or really any marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But specifically content, you should ask yourself those questions. Who does this help? How does it help them? And I actually like to ask the question, who does this hurt? We don't think about our content hurting people, right? It's just content. But for you to like abuse somebody's time and attention, that is not something they don't get that back. That's time they can be spending with their family, with their kids, on something more important at work. So having a flashy headline, having a piece of content that doesn't produce any value, not following up on the promise that your content has, that can actually hurt people. So, I'm of the camp of asking those questions on the front end. And one of my team members likes to ask the question, so what? Like, we wrote this thing, we have this piece, so what? And if you don't have an answer for that, it's a little intrusive, right, by design. If you don't have a good answer for that, then you probably shouldn't have the piece in the first place, right? We shouldn't also be asking ourselves, like, what medium should we produce this content on, or should it be gated or ungated? Like, All of those should be answered before you start, because you need to build the content to meet those metrics, meet those mediums. Certain types of content plays better on social than it does in an email, right? That's just that simple. When somebody is viewing content, whatever medium they're viewing it in puts them in a certain state of mind, right? Some things are scrolls, some things are diving deep, some things are searching, right? Those are all different mediums. So they're all looking for something different there. So try to match your content with your medium, I think is extremely helpful. Just making sure more people see it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we come to the point in the conversation where we're talking about actionable tips, and you've given us plenty already. So this is almost, think of this like a recap of everything that you've just said. But just imagine that there's somebody out there, a B2B content marketer, as it were, that's listening to this conversation and going, gosh, you know what, David's right, and I really want to take action on this right away. What are these 3 to 5 things you would advise them to take action on right now when it comes to standing out?
Yeah, I would, depending on the size of your company, find the person who works in the service department or operations or whatever it is, whoever delivers the solution to the client. Go to them and ask them, give me some broad strokes on how we actually deliver the solution to the client. That is a great indicator of giving away the secret sauce, a way for you to build an entire series around those things. You can even keep it super high level. You don't have to get super detailed. If you're really worried about people taking away what you do, just don't go into a ton of detail, but give them the broad strokes of it. Sure, that's fine. That's helpful for most people. So looking to your operations and service team as triggers for content is fantastic, certainly. I would say from an AI point of view, using AI in developing content, use it however you best think you can, but do not let quality be sacrificed in efficiency. Do not let quality be sacrificed in efficiency. There's a great quote from Jerry Seinfeld when he talks about writing Seinfeld, and they talk about how much work it was and how demanding it was to write an episode every week, right? And somebody asked Jerry, like, couldn't you outsource some of the writing to another team, to a consultant, something like that? And his initial thought was, we could, but then it wouldn't be ours. It wouldn't be our thing. It wouldn't be special to us, right? We weren't just there to sell ad space in our show. We were there to tell a story, right? So think of AI the same way too, right? Just because it's more efficient does not mean that it's better. It's better when it's better. that's the rule of thumb.
Fair
And it
enough.
doesn't matter if a monkey wrote it, a copywriter wrote it, or AI wrote it.
Yep.
If it's good, it's good, right? Just
Yep.
have your quality metric behind.
Yep. Fantastic tips. Yeah, so definitely like talking to the people in the front lines, as it were, that are delivering the product or the service, and getting their take on, like, okay, what is it that's keeping these customers up at night? Like, what are these challenges that they're dealing with that, uh, I think it's the design thinking approach where they ask the question, suppose we did da 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 da. How would that help you, right? What if we did da 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 da? How would that be useful to you, right? So it's trying to come at it from a more constructive angle versus, oh yeah, there's so many problems. Like, yeah, we get that, right? And then the AI piece. I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, the focusing on the quality and not like the, as you alluded to, the volume aspect of it, because there is that temptation to just keep cranking that stuff out. I'm gonna use that word cranking because that's really what it is, right? So
yeah, you're winding a machine up and go.
exactly. Okay, here comes the bonus question, my friend, and again, only because you speak about this so passionately. What is it about brand storytelling, right? This craft that you have honed over the years. What is it about this craft that you wish more people knew about?
I would want them to know more about the emotional impact that brand storytelling actually has. I think of, I went to school and I got a fine arts degree. And then that wasn't enough. And I got another fine arts degree. Like I got a master's in fine arts, right? And the difference, I think, between art and content is about emotional connection. But I don't think there has to be that difference. I really do believe we can build emotional connection in the content, in the brand stories that we tell, in whatever medium they come out in. And when I say that, I mean an emotional connection means that somebody views something or experiences something. And then later, when they're not in front of that thing anymore or experiencing it anymore, they can recall the feelings that those items brought out in them, and they can feel it once again. That's what art does to us. We see a piece of art and we remember it and we think of the passion or whatever feeling it brought, sadness or whatever was depicted in the art, or however we viewed that art. And by being able to recall it again in the future is really what defines it. And I think brand storytelling can do that too. There's plenty of great examples of brands that can build emotion with their audience. And the emotions are varying, obviously. So I would like people to know that that's possible. I'd like people to think of ways that they can do that. We work a lot in cybersecurity, and one of our clients said that he wants to create content so good that that his target audience cries. And I'm like, man, I don't even know where to go with that, but that's deep, right? We can build emotional connection in the content that we're producing, and it can be a positive experience for the individual. So that's something I wish more people knew that could happen in brand storytelling, and more people would attempt to accomplish that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be emotional in the sense that it makes you cry, but it's aspirational, or it leaves you awestruck, like, wow. Kind of like when you brought it up earlier on in the conversation, like the Nike ads, right? Like, and you look at that and go, wow, that's kind of like what I'm going through, right? Like that kind of thing, right? Fantastic. David, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experience and expertise with the listeners. So please, quick introduction to yourself and how folks out there can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm David J. Ebner. I'm the president and founder of Content Workshop. The best way to get a hold of me is really just going to our website, contentworkshop.com. There's a little chat window in the bottom. That's not a bot. That literally comes to me in my phone right here. So if you want to get a hold of me or connect with me, it's a great way just to chat with me. I tell people my friendship is always free. So go there and take advantage of that. If you want to, see what's interesting to me and what I want to talk about, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. And that's David J. Ebner. I'd love to connect with you.
Fantastic. Once again, David, thanks so much for your time. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Christian.
All right, thanks. Bye for now.